도대체 무슨 일이야?
아무것도 아니야.
The sad story of a girl who is willing to marry Yokia to change her life. In a state of frustration, Young went to a nightclub until she got heavily drunk. At the same time, a man saw the girl unconscious and immediately took her to the hospital. In the emergency room, the man named Kijin stayed with Young all night until she regained consciousness. The man's handsomeness and kindness left Young increasingly captivated. She didn't want Kijin to be burdened with the hospital bill and asked for his help to retrieve her card that was left behind. However, Kijin, in a hurry to get to work, refused and left Young alone. After changing her hairstyle, Young hurried to the World Hotel owned by Kijin. She intended to return the hospital expenses. It turned out that previously, Young had accidentally discovered the man's identity from a tabloid. Unexpectedly, Young's arrival at the hotel restaurant coincided with a scheduled meeting between Kijin and his potential fiancé. Young's clumsy behavior when sitting caused her to fall off the chair, spilling juice all over her clothes. Young was very embarrassed to show herself in front of Kijin, who was engrossed in conversation at the time. Because the girl didn't move from in front of him and pretended to faint, Kijin felt uncomfortable. Without thinking twice, he then carried her to the hotel room. Earlier, one of Young's friends also visited the hotel and was surprised to see her friend with a wealthy man. She assumed that the man carrying Young was her husband. The gossip quickly spread among all of Young's friends. Sorang also seemed emotional after hearing that Young was married to a son of Kong Lumrat. It didn't take long for the hotel staff to start buzzing about the director having a special relationship with Young.
네. 그 현기준이 내 친구 아정.
The next day at a golf course, Kyujin was puzzled by Nonali's suddenly cold attitude towards him. Initially, she was very sweet, and the two seemed like a perfect couple. Apparently, Kyujin's fiancé felt hurt after learning that Kyujin was rumored to have married a woman he brought to the hotel room yesterday.
절 들러리 세운 거 불쾌했어요.
Feeling wronged by the rumors of his marriage, Kyujin contacted Young and then invited her to meet at a coffee shop. He threatened to take this matter to court and sue the girl for defamation. He even accused Young of deliberately coming and pretending to faint repeatedly just to get close to a rich man.
네. 아니에요?
말 다 했습니까?
On the other hand, Young had a brilliant idea. She countered the rumor by showcasing Sangyi as her fake boyfriend to attend the party together. Happily, Sangyi agreed to Young's request. Feeling it was appropriate for the situation, Sangyi dragged her into the mall to pick out suitable clothes, transforming Young into as beautiful as a goddess. Upon arriving at the World Hotel, Young, who was initially enthusiastic about attending, suddenly became gloomy after Sangyi abruptly left her. Her anxiety increased after a woman harshly criticized her in the restroom. The woman deliberately came to the World Hotel with her husband just to confirm whether the hotel owner was Young's husband or not. She truly couldn't accept if Young surpassed her, because she considered Young to be far below her level and deserving of being trampled on.
아니야?
만약 사귄다고 바로 말했으면 어땠을 것 같아?
Unable to accept the hurtful words her friend had said, Young lost her sense of reason for a moment. This time, she truly wanted to retaliate against the harsh words by proving that she was indeed married to a man far better than her friend's husband. Without thinking twice, as soon as she saw Kyujin passing by, Young confidently called out to him as "my darling." Both of them were very surprised and couldn't believe it. Young no longer cared about embarrassment. What mattered most to her was stirring up her friend's emotions. She wanted the woman to feel even more hurt by her success in winning the heart of a wealthy prince, even though it was all just an act behind the scenes.
여보, 나 여기 있어.
With no other choice but to run away, Young pretended to take Soren, who was experiencing stomach cramps due to stress from seeing other people's happiness. The next day, Kyujin really couldn't stay silent and let the rumor continue, so he went to the lawyer's office to handle his case. However, after finding out that Jibum's lawyer was a close friend of Young, he grew even more resentful of the situation, believing they had conspired with the lawyer to tarnish his reputation. Now, no matter what she does to avoid Kyujin, her attempts never succeed. Today, her boss treated her to a meal at the World Hotel restaurant. While at the World Hotel, Young couldn't concentrate, her mind was restless, and she kept envisioning Kijin's emotional face as if he were about to pounce on her. On the other hand, Young became the topic of conversation at the office, being considered a pathetic single when Sang-yi visited. Initially, the young man claimed to be Young's husband, but then he corrected himself and admitted to being Young's brother.
동생이에요.
He came to see Young because he wanted to apologize for avoiding the party at the World Hotel. So far, Sang-yi has kept his identity a secret, leading Young to believe that he is just an unemployed young man who always asks to be treated. Even though he is considered useless, Sang-yi is the only one Young can confide all her complaints to. However, everything became more and more complicated, dragging her into a complex situation where she had to deal with a man like Kjuan.
현기준 말이야. 날 되게 이상한 여자라고 생각하게.
To cheer up Young, Sang-yi invited her to play in the park. Eventually, the girl was able to smile, even if just for a moment. His closeness with Young reminded him of Yeonju, the girl he loved. Unfortunately, that girl is still living abroad to continue her studies. The next day, just as Young had thought, Yeonju had indeed sent a letter containing a defamation lawsuit to the cultural office. She became increasingly stressed thinking about how to find a solution and a way out. Because indeed, she herself was the one who started causing this problem. In any way possible, Young wanted the issue to be resolved peacefully. She wanted to meet with Yeonju, but this time a lump in her throat kept holding her back. A silly idea popped into her mind, which was to come as a hotel guest renting one of the most luxurious rooms at the Word Hotel. Young then started causing a scene and complained to the staff because she considered her room to be inadequate.
끔찍해. 끔찍해.
She threatened to spread the hotel's inadequacy if she wasn't allowed to meet with the president-director. Since the staff was overwhelmed handling her, in the end, it was Kijin himself who had to step in. In front of Kijin, the girl didn't dare to protest the hotel service. Instead, she earnestly pleaded with the director to agree to marry her, even if it was just a charade. She pretended that the real time would be much longer to make Kijin feel moved. However, the man instead shouted at her and rudely rejected her. He grew to despise Young even more due to her behavior, which he considered to have crossed the line. In her room, Young was truly frustrated. She downed a bottle of wine and tried to shake off her feelings. She then asked Sang-yi to come and keep her company. Not long after, the man came sneaking to the place. He actually tried to avoid. But for Young, he would do anything, including listening to her vent about Kijin. Amidst tears, she kept rambling about how Kijin had rejected her. She just wanted to pretend to be married, all to get revenge on someone. Unable to bear seeing Young cry all night over her overwhelming problems, Sang-yi intended to help. To help Young, Sang-yi was willing to mend his relationship with his brother after they had parted ways 3 years ago. It wasn't without reason that Sang-yi stayed away from Kijin for years. He felt guilty, ashamed, and unworthy to show himself in front of his family after all the problems caused by his actions. It all started 3 years ago, when Kijin intended to marry Yeonju, the girl he loved. The engagement had been held, but suddenly Kijin broke it off unilaterally. He didn't want to hurt his brother's feelings by marrying the girl Sang-yi had loved since elementary school. In the end, Kijin chose to give in and cancel the wedding. This made Yeonju cry and try to forget by living abroad. This time, his arrival was greeted with joyful laughter from his brother and aunt. Like a sibling missing his family, he wanted to be close to his brother again, even though it felt awkward at first. At their parents' graves, they visited to ease their longing with cheerful jokes and stories about their lives while living apart. As an older brother, Kijin has been open-hearted and forgiven Sang-yi's mistakes, even forbidding him from living a life of hardship. While with his brother, Sang-yi secretly and cautiously made plans to help Jung marry his brother. First, he left his brother alone by the roadside and instructed him to buy vegetables from an elderly grandmother's stall. Afterwards, Sang-yi took his brother's car and picked up Jung at the airport to meet with a potential Chinese business partner. Worried about Sang-yi's threat to reveal her lies to someone else, Jung could only comply with wherever she was taken. she managed to get a head start compared to Spark's secretary, who was also at the airport to welcome investor John. With his proficiency in Chinese, Sang-yi introduced Jung to the investors as the wife of director Ki-jin.
公司会长钱运浩吗？
Honestly, he didn't understand Chinese at all and could only nod his head when the monk instructed him to do many things. Following the monk's advice, Young welcomed investor John with great friendliness and total commitment. After that meeting, the investor's wife, who was impressed by Young, wanted to meet him again for a dinner event together. Meanwhile, Jae-jin was very emotional with his staff because the secretary successfully found the whereabouts of the investor who had been in Korea. He was worried that the investor might cancel his investment plans and choose to invest in another company. Unexpectedly, the warm welcome from Young truly impressed investor John and his wife, so much so that he chose the Ward Hotel as his place to stay. At the dinner event welcoming the guests from China, the investor's wife unexpectedly asked about Young's absence at the dinner, in attendance.
공화정?
She was disappointed, wondering why the director's wife didn't welcome her like she did at the airport the other day. Not knowing what to say, Jae-jin was very surprised that the investor got to know Young before he did. On the other hand, the false rumor about Young's marriage to a director from the hotel ward had apparently reached the ears of Young's father, who works as a professor. The professor accidentally learned about the rumor concerning his daughter from Jaebang, who greeted him at the cinema. He tried to find a solution for Young, but his daughter refused and chose to handle it herself by borrowing money from the bank to pay for a lawyer and a settlement to the aggrieved party. Meanwhile, someone who initially always belittled Young suddenly changed and started acting sweetly towards her. It turns out he wanted to be seen as a friend of the wife of the conglomerate. Soren truly revealed his true colors, showing that all this time, he was never sincere and was only looking to benefit from being friends with Young. At the same time, Jae-jin came to meet Young, who was sitting with Soren at a pawn shop from a distance. Proudly, he suddenly called Young my dear, and hearing that made Soren feel very awkward. He became even more stressed when he witnessed firsthand how romantic Jae-jin was to Young, carrying her bag and calling her my dear. It wasn't without consideration. Jae-jin acted this way because he was willing to do anything to facilitate his business dealings. Thus, Young inevitably became truly involved in his dealings with the investor, leaving him no choice but to pretend to be Young's husband. This time, without any hesitation, while pedaling a swan boat on the lake, Jae-jin wanted Young to agree to marry him. But not as a real wife, rather a fake wife, and only for a few months. However, Young was still happy because Jae-jin dropped the lawsuit and they both agreed to sign a fake marriage contract. Meanwhile, at the Word Hotel, Jae-jin ran up to the highest rooftop to relieve his longing for Yeonju, his former fiancée. It was still clear in his memory, the time when they were still together. At that time, Jae-jin hugged her tightly after Yeonju wore the ring he gave her. They were indeed a couple in love and didn't want to be separated, but fate had other plans. To reminisce about their beautiful times, Jae-jin invited Yeonju for a walk to the most beautiful waterfall in the city. His longing was undeniable. All this time, even though Yeonju spent years trying to forget and find a better man, she could never forget Jae-jin. She wanted to be with him again, but Jae-jin had not yet welcomed her back. Slowly, Yeonju's gentle hand caressed Jae-jin's cheek, enchanting him. At the same time, Soren accidentally witnessed the intimacy and informed Jung that her husband was having an affair. Feeling hurt by Soren's words, Jung became impulsive again. Without thinking twice, she burst into Jae-jin's office while he was in a meeting. She cursed at Jae-jin in front of his business associates, which made him angry and he dragged her out. The question is, she burst into Jae-jin's office while it was enchanted at that time. Ki-jin threatens to take Young back to court if she continues to bother him. However, the girl argues that she just wants Ki-jin to fully commit to being her fake husband and stay away from other women. As long as their marriage contract is still valid, Young feels entitled to forbid Ki-jin from approaching other women and Indeed, avoid rumors of infidelity.
한 씨도 여자없이는 못 사는 남자였어요?
뭐요?
For a moment, Young realizes that she must condition her ego not to interfere in Kijin's personal affairs, considering their marriage is just a charade. However, upon seeing Jae-boom getting cozy with another woman, Young couldn't hold back her anger and tears. Her feelings for Jae-boom as her first love suddenly crumbled due to disappointment. In the past, she always hoped to have a partner like Jae-boom and prepared everything he needed before going to work. She wanted to be treated romantically like Jae-boom treated others, but it turned out it was all just pretense. That night, a frustrated Young asked Kijin to come and accompany her for a drink at a bar. Because Young was heavily intoxicated, Kijin couldn't bring himself to leave her. He stayed with her even though his suit was soaked with vomit. After changing clothes, Kijin continued to follow Young and sat with her under the falling cherry blossoms. For a moment, his youthful spirit was stirred by Young's beauty, and he almost kissed her. The next day, Young asked Songi to accompany her to buy a wedding ring at the jewelry store. All this time, she knew that Songi had high taste. Unexpectedly, the man she thought was unemployed was actually able to buy various expensive jewelry for her. As a gift for successfully making a fake marriage contract with Kijin. Up to this point, Songi still hasn't revealed his identity to Young. At a social gathering at someone's house, Young couldn't wait to show off her diamond ring, as a sign of her marriage to Kijin. When Young arrived at the house, Jae-bum suddenly became awkward and tried to avoid her. He was worried that his affair would be exposed. They both turned away until Jae-bum quickly excused himself. In the middle of the event, Soren began looking for a way to find Young's flaws by asking her when she would move into her new house after marrying her prestigious husband. Unable to say anything further, the confused Young could only agree to Soren's request to see her residence after marrying Kijin. Now she had to somehow find a way to convince Kijin to somehow agree to graciously lend his beautiful house for just one special day to welcome her dear friends who already believed in this elaborate charade.
또 아정이 집 가보고 싶지?
That night, she went to Kijin's house and pleaded with him to make it easier for her plan to pretend they were living together in his house. However, Kijin firmly refused and thought Young was getting out of hand and going too far.
싫은데.
왜요?
The next day, during a break, Young, who was anxious because she had gone too far pretending, could only express her frustrations to Songi. The young man definitely promised to help Young and planned to borrow his aunt's house, which would be vacant for a few days due to her business trip to Jeju. However, in the end, they themselves cancelled the plan after finding out that the aunt's trip to Jeju Island was cancelled. Meanwhile, Young was already too confident in front of Kijin and insisted that she would never use her luxurious house as one of the properties to support the pretense. She even surveyed a luxury apartment unit that was considered more beautiful than Soren's apartment. However, the apartment owner ended up kicking her out because Young only intended to rent it for just one day.
일단 하루 정도 살아가야죠. 네.
Meanwhile, the rumor of Kijin's fake marriage had reached his aunt's ears. She suspected that Kijin deliberately spread the marriage rumor without approval so that he would no longer be matched with conglomerate daughters to expand the company's connections. On the other hand, she also wanted her secretary to continue investigating the identity of Young, who was rumored to be his fake wife. Kijin had spread the marriage rumor without the approval of connections.
공화정인가 하는 그 아가씨 지켜만 봐.
At the same time, Yeonju, who had not long arrived in Korea, came to visit. She greeted him warmly, even though she didn't dare to be too obvious. Her presence was intended to rekindle her relationship with Kijin, which had been interrupted. Actually, Bi-an really wanted Yeonju to be with Kijin because they loved each other and seemed well matched. However, she couldn't agree because she didn't want the relationship between her two nephews to become strained again just because of a woman.
그때나 지금이나 내 생각은 변함없다.
Upon returning to Korea, Yeonju now works as a professional designer who will be involved in several projects with the World Hotel Company. This, of course, will often bring her into contact with Kijin. In his heart, there might still be love for Yeonju, but Kijin tries to avoid her to protect Songi's feelings. He even chose to go to the movies with secretary Mr. Hun rather than have dinner together at Yeonju's house.
멜로 좋아합니다.
이건 다음에 여자랑 보고.
At the bustling coffee shop, Secretary Mr. Hun made an effort to help Ah-young by convincing Ki-jin to have his boss lend the house to successfully welcome Ah-young's friends. Initially, Ki-jin was very adamant in refusing, but after learning that Ah-young was doing it to maintain her dignity, Ki-jin slowly began to relent and consider it. Moreover, after he witnessed for himself that Ah-young was indeed very close with Sangi, he suspected that it was Sangi who had always been helping Ah-young to keep moving forward this far. In the end, Ki-jin agreed to lend his house for just one day, for Ah-young to show off to her friends. But with one condition, Ki-jin was not allowed to be involved in the welcoming event at all.
하루면 충분해요.
절대 집들이 엮이지 않을 거고.
기대도 안.
Ah-young was so happy after the stubborn Ki-jin agreed to her request. With Sangi's help, she prepared to transform Ki-jin's house into one that looked like a married couple's home. To make it look more convincing, Sangi bought a variety of branded items, from luxury bags and shoes to women's accessories, to arrange in Ki-jin's room. Not only that, she also accompanied Ah-young to shop for groceries that would later be served to the guests. All day, Ah-young was busy in the kitchen, trying her best to prepare delicious dishes to welcome her friends. For some reason, Ki-jin had a change of heart. Initially, he rejected Ah-young's silly idea, but now, he suddenly came to her house and was willing to help her be more convincing in acting in front of Ah-young's friends. Their love story became more convincing in front of her friends, while also making others envious.
어서 와요.
Ah-young's four friends were so captivated by Ki-jin's handsomeness, especially with his warm and elegant demeanor that melted the hearts of the women. Ah-young's friends who were present continuously and enthusiastically praised her for her luck and fortune in marrying an absolutely perfect man like Ki-jin. They even boldly and confidently barged into Ki-jin's room to check out the various luxurious branded items owned by the conglomerate's wife. At the dining table, they kept on expressing their admiration and appreciation for Ah-young's exceptional cooking skills, until she inadvertently and unintentionally shared her past after her mother's departure, which forced her to learn to do absolutely everything with her father, including cooking. This made Ki-jin realize how hard Ah-young's life had been, and he was momentarily stunned, unable to take his eyes off her. It made Ah-young unable to control her heartbeat as she was being stared at by her crush. To calm the fluttering in her chest, Ah-young ran to the restroom, but accidentally, Jae-bum followed her. He pleaded with Ah-young not to reveal his affair to anyone. Ki-jin felt jealous when he saw the two of them coming out of the restroom together. To lighten the mood, Jae-bum asked the host to sing a song. Not wanting to embarrass Ki-jin, Ah-young was willing to sing alone, but it turned out Ki-jin was willing to duet with her. The two of them sang a romantic song, successfully making their friends envious of their chemistry. Carried away by the warm and romantic atmosphere, Ki-jin could no longer contain the flutter in his chest, which had been captivated by Ah-young's beauty. Unexpectedly, at the end of the song, Ki-jin suddenly kissed Ah-young on the lips in front of all their friends. As promised, Ah-young had to tidy up the house as it was before, after the event was over. However, she suddenly felt sad and immediately went home after Ki-jin said that the affection he showed in front of their friends was just part of an act. Ah-young's heart was shattered, feeling that she had been played by the pretender. She needed to realize that Ki-jin was just acting and she shouldn't have let her feelings dip that deep. The next day, the heartache and disappointment caused by Ki-jin made Ah-young unable to focus at work. She was so exhausted after spending the entire day preparing for the welcome party. Her co-workers were even disturbed by the smell of the ointment emanating from her body. Despite being hurt and upset with Ki-jin, Ah-young remained responsible and agreed to go to his house to pick up the things she left there. She still couldn't forgive Ki-jin for kissing her without permission.
그쪽이 나한테 키스했잖아요. 허락도 없이.
As a gentleman, this time Ki-jin didn't want to deny his feelings for Ah-young anymore and corrected his statement from the previous night, admitting that he was indeed acting in front of his friends to please Ah-young. However, his feelings for Ah-young were genuine and not a lie. Slowly, Pijun pulled Young closer, but Sang-hai suddenly arrived and interrupted their moment. Roughly, Sang-hai grabbed Young's hand and forced her out of the house. He warned Young not to get her hopes up about his brother. Now, Sang-hai boldly showed his jealousy when he saw Young with Kijun.
도와달라며.
이 도와줘.
All night, Young couldn't sleep well and kept thinking about Kijun's words. For the first time, she felt so loved and cared for. Even though he seemed cold and harsh, Kijun was willing to lend her the house. While at the office, she tried to find excuses to meet Kijun after work. Her efforts paid off, as she managed to get Kijun to agree to watch a movie and drink wine at a restaurant to get to know each other better. For the first time, Kijun, who is perfectionist and cold, was so enthusiastic about replying to Young's messages that it made him smile even during important meetings. Just as Kijun began to open his heart to Young, Yeonkuk reappeared and tried to capture his attention. While strolling and enjoying the beautiful park atmosphere by the river, Yeonkuk asserted that he wanted to rekindle their past relationship. Unable to say anything in response to his feelings, Pijun could only run away from him. During the visit, Sang Hikbali left a mark of disappointment in his heart and said that there was no longer any hope for him in Kijun's heart. Nevertheless, Yeonkuk still did not want to give up.
맹추같이 바람이나 맞고.
Faced with such a difficult choice, Kijun was in a dilemma, choosing between Young, who had started to brighten his days, or Yeonkuk, the ex he could never forget. He vented his turmoil by continuously exercising without stopping, even though his body was exhausted and not in good shape. Meanwhile, at her office, Young was once again chosen as the person in charge of the upcoming cultural festival. This time, she promised not to disappoint the minister who appointed her. After returning from a work lunch, she was surprised when Lawyer Park invited her to meet to give her a gift of luxurious jewelry from investor John. Honestly, Young was very impressed with the gift, but as a good and honest civil servant, she felt it was inappropriate to accept such an expensive gift and intended to return it to John. When she arrived at his house, as soon as John opened the door to greet her, suddenly, the man fainted in Young's arms. After being examined by the doctor, it turned out that John was experiencing exhaustion, compounded by his very sensitive stomach after eating a dish made by Young a few days ago. After hearing the doctor's explanation, Young felt guilty and responsible for John's weakness, which led to the man fainting. She stayed up all night by John's side. Young took care of him so diligently, even compressing his forehead with a warm towel. As Young was about to leave the room, suddenly, John woke up and grabbed Young's hand to stop her from leaving.
현기준 씨.
When John woke up, he didn't want Young to be far from his side because he felt comfortable with her presence. With such care, Young made warm porridge for John before she left for work. While at the office, even though Young was busy, she continued to worry about John's condition. Until during her lunch break, she rushed home just to make sure if John was getting better. However, John's response only disappointed her, making Young feel she shouldn't worry about him since they had no ties whatsoever.
그 잊어버렸어?
잊어버려요?
Meanwhile, Jae-bang did not receive a warm welcome from Young's father when he visited their home. Even though he kept praising the harmony of Young and John's household. The father realized that his daughter was putting on such a facade just to retaliate against Soren and Jae-bang's actions. However, he didn't know that his daughter had truly fallen in love with her fake husband.
공화정 씨?
뭘요?
Her deepening feelings for John made Young really overthink. She was even jealous when Soren reported that John had another ideal woman, namely Hyunju, his ex-girlfriend who works as a designer and has returned to Korea. Fueling the fire of jealousy even more, Soren insisted that John was truly having an affair and being affectionate at a waterfall. Not immediately believing it, Young turned to attack Soren and scolded her for always being nosy about other people's domestic affairs. She hinted that Soren should take care of her own household, because Jae-bang isn't as good as she thinks.
그 이름 좀 쉬자. 어? 나중에 후회하지 말고 내 말.
Even though she tried to deny it, Young was still extremely curious indeed and wanted to know what John's ex-girlfriend looked like. She felt quite insecure when she saw how beautiful Hyunju appeared, and realized that it was no wonder Kjuan hadn't been able to forget her all this time.
네? 엄마 언제 왔어요? 연락하고 오지.
At the Dina Separaniseda employee party, Young was extremely frustrated and vented her anxiety by drinking alcohol non-stop. She wasn't embarrassed even though she had to scream and go wild among her other friends. She felt like the most foolish woman, hoping to become a Cinderella loved by a prince like Kjuan. From drinking so much, Young lost consciousness and staggered as her friends escorted her to a taxi. Her memory was fixated on one name, that Kjuan was her husband. So much so that when the taxi driver asked for her address, Young asked to be taken to Kjuan's house instead of her own. Young's behavior was truly unexpected, and she considered Kjuan's room as her own, even taking off all her clothes before going to sleep. The next morning, she was very surprised to find herself naked and thought that something had happened between her and Kjuan the night before. However, she felt relieved after Kjuan explained that nothing had happened between them. Kjuan's childish behavior began to show when Young was about to drink soda. He shook the soda until it sprayed all over Young's clothes. Not accepting that, Young retaliated by chasing him and soaking Kjuan's clothes until they were drenched. As both of them laughed freely, getting closer to each other, Kjuan couldn't hold back his feelings. Suddenly, he kissed Young on the lips. At first, the girl resisted and thought it was just an excuse in the moment. However, Kjuan was not just caught up in the moment and admitted his feelings this time that he truly had fallen for Young. The two of them became even closer, like a couple deeply in love. Especially when Young agreed to help him escort the investor to the airport. Young's warm welcome and her friendliness towards the investor's wife made the man from Shanghai willing to become one of the largest shareholders in hotel world.
写好，好东西后发给我。
As their love began to blossom, a major obstacle came from BP Myung-jin. He was very eager to keep Kjuan away from Yeonju so that the girl would no longer be a reason for the feud between his two nephews. However, this time he used Young as a tool to separate Yeonju from his nephew. In the morning, the aunt invited Young to attend a meal event with her and Kjuan. Asking both of them, she also invited Yeonju and explained to the girl that Kjuan now had a wife and that Yeonju should no longer have hopes for him. Not expecting that the man she loved already had another woman, Yeonju ran out of the restaurant area, crying all the way. Feeling trapped in this situation, an emotional Kjuan snapped at his aunt and ran after his ex. Young realized that Kjuan sided more with his ex than with her. Her heart was truly broken, and she no longer wanted to continue the charade. No matter how deep her love for Kjuan was, it couldn't displace Yeonju's position in Kjuan's heart. All this time, she felt so foolish for hoping to be loved, when in reality, she was just a puppet no longer needed. Young couldn't sleep all night, so she decided to visit Yeonju's house to clarify the relationship between her and Kjuan. However, the next day, she found that Kjuan and his ex were so affectionate after returning from somewhere. At that moment, it felt like the world was collapsing for Young upon realizing that Kjuan had rekindled his relationship with his ex-girlfriend. Now, the hope in her secret code was truly about to end. In tears, she visited Soren's house and explained all the truth, that all this time, she had never married Kjuan, and it was all just an act to retaliate against his arrogance. On the other hand, Soren, whose house was about to fall apart, had just ransacked the entire room because Jae-boom's affair at Hotel World had been discovered. All this time, Soren had failed to build a false image of her perfect marriage. In truth, both friends were equally engaged in a charade to showcase happiness that was actually full of falsehoods. To start her new day, Young tried to change her appearance to a short and casual hairstyle. Keeping herself busy with a mountain of work at the office was the most effective way to forget Kjuan. She never answered any of the phone calls from Priya. Meanwhile, Soren came to visit her during her lunch break. The woman wanted to make sure whether Ah-young and Ki-jin had never really been married and were just pretending to defeat her. She truly couldn't believe that a high-ranking official like Ki-jin would agree to such a ridiculous agreement with Ah-young. Not stopping there, Soren also took the time to come to the World Hotel to ask Ki-jin for clarification about his fake marriage with Ah-young.
지난번 그 여자 때문에.
At the same time, Ki-jin was planning to go for lunch with Yeonju until Soren confronted him for playing with Ah-young's feelings while having another woman in his heart. Even though he was physically with Yeonju, Ki-jin's heart kept thinking about Ah-young. His feelings are no longer the same as they were 3 years ago. Ki-jin now seemed so cold and as if he was forced to accompany Yeonju. In truth, he had no intention of rekindling a relationship with Yeonju, but he had promised himself not to hurt her heart a second time.
죽으려고도 생각했었어.
In the end, he chose to sacrifice his feelings for Ah-young and pursue Yeonju instead. Even though initially Ah-young repeatedly rejected calls from Ki-jin, however, she eventually agreed to meet because it concerned Soren. Soren's arrival at the World Hotel greatly surprised Ki-jin because Ah-young herself had revealed all the lies before Soren went abroad. Ah-young didn't mind if her lies were exposed. She felt she had successfully defeated Soren and thanked Ki-jin for his help all this time. At this moment, she had ended everything and wanted to live their own lives as they did before knowing Ki-jin.
막 열받아서 뒤로 꼬꾸라지는데.
After realizing how determined Yeonju was to win back her brother's love, Sunny had to willingly let go. She pleaded with her aunt to bless the interracial relationship with her brother. The more Ah-young tried to forget Ki-jin, fate kept bringing her back to him. As the person in charge of the upcoming cultural festival, Ah-young was tasked with surveying a resort that would be used as the event location. It turned out that the Gold Resort was one of Ki-jin's properties, which inevitably led to their meeting again. To avoid Ki-jin, Ah-young tried to act professionally and pretended not to know him. This provoked Ki-jin's anger, leading him to embarrass her in front of colleagues and staff. He expelled Ah-young and forbade her from holding events at his resort.
이 사람들 여기 무슨 일 때문에 왔다고 했지?
Considered unprofessional at work, Manager Park reprimanded him for mixing personal matters with business. A president-director should not reject special guests who are planning to hold international events at his resort. Frustrated by Ki-jin's selfishness that disrupted her work agenda, a saddened Ah-young ran towards the hill not far from the resort. She wanted to scream and cry as loudly as possible to vent her disappointment. But suddenly, she slipped into the hillside. Ah-young was unconscious for a while. Her leg was injured quite severely, making it difficult for her to walk. The slippery soil and inadequate lighting prevented her from being found until dawn. Worried that his colleague hadn't returned since the afternoon, Kyung-chin asked the staff and rescue team to find Ah-young's whereabouts. After several hours of searching, Ah-young was finally found by Ki-jin at night. However, the line kept avoiding him, and he just wanted to go home quickly. At Ki-jin's house, Yeonju and Sunny held a surprise party to celebrate Sunny's 28th birthday. A luxurious watch was gifted by the older sibling to the younger one, while Sunny gave his blessing for his sibling to be happy with Yeonju. Instead of being happy, Ki-jin actually wanted to end the confusion in his heart. At a beautiful hill where he once was with Yeonju, he declared that he no longer wanted to go back to how things were, because his heart has now chosen Ah-young. He was willing to let Yeonju return to Paris to pursue her dreams.
여기보다 거기가 더 기회가 많잖아.
Meanwhile, because her sibling was still injured, Ah-young got a few days off. She spent her happy days together with Sunny. Ah-young always made time to eat together and even prepared breakfast for him. Sang-gia even took the initiative to find a match for his daughter, who always seemed gloomy as if she were heartbroken. A well-established man, one of the top alumni from a university where she teaches, was chosen to be introduced to Ah-young. His name is Jun-ho, who works as a financial analyst and reportedly has many assets, one of which is a luxury yacht. At the amusement park, Ah-young talked about the man her father had chosen and kept praising him, in front of Pansangi. The man was actually quite special in Ah Young's eyes. There was nothing wrong with him, but what Ah Young really wanted to refuse was the meeting location, which had to be at the World Hotel, the place she hated the most. No matter how hard she tried to avoid it, Ah Young still had to meet Kijin there, who was having a business meeting with his colleagues. While sitting with Jun-ho, Ah Young acted silly and kept praising the man, loudly enough for Kijin to hear. In the middle of the conversation, she excused herself to go to the restroom, but unexpectedly, after coming out of the restroom, Kijin suddenly grabbed her hand with a look of annoyance. He was so furious and accused Ah Young of deliberately finding an excuse to meet him. Kijin kept dragging her and took the girl to the front of a beautiful fountain. The girl then cried and insisted that she had no intention of going to the World Hotel. However, it was Jun-ho who decided on the meeting location.
거슬렸다면 미안해요. 일부러 그런 건 아닌데.
He promised never to appear in front of Kijin again and would truly forget him. However, at that moment, Kijin, who couldn't accept it, kept pursuing him until finally, Ah Young admitted that she loved Kijin very much and didn't want him to be with another girl.
내가 당신 좋아하니까 그 여자 좋아하지 마.
After a moment of silence, Kijin was unable to provide certainty. He was still in a dilemma because he had to take responsibility for resolving his past before he could truly choose Ah Young. Disappointed with Kijin's indecisive attitude, Ah Young could only cry all the way and refused to be taken home. The next morning, at the tourism office, Ah Young's colleagues were busy discussing one of the employees who was honorably discharged due to a romantic scandal. Government agencies in this country do not tolerate scandals involving their staff, as they must be completely free from such issues. Feeling alluded to because she had engaged in a fake marriage, Ah Young started to feel anxious and even choked while eating together. Even while working, she became uneasy, fearing she might be fired if her fake marriage was exposed. Meanwhile, Yeonju was determined to win Kijin back. She kept trying to gain sympathy from her aunt. She apparently wanted to marry Kijin as soon as possible and asked her aunt to bless and prepare everything. However, her aunt still doubted the plan because she hadn't received approval from Kijin. The girl insisted on pushing forward. She argued that she had postponed this marriage for 3 years and needed to proceed quickly. Not stopping there, Yeonju even went to Ah Young at her office and asked her to stay away from Kijin, because soon the two of them would be getting married. She also flaunted a diamond ring on her ring finger, making Ah Young unable to hold back her tears. Being caught between two women put Kijin in such a dilemma. While in the middle of an important meeting, Ah Young suddenly called and berated him thoroughly for his cowardly behavior. He wanted Ah Young but planned to marry Yeonju. After returning from the office, he tried to apologize to Ah Young by treating her to a meal in front of her friends at the barbecue shop. Ah Young, who was emotional towards Kijin, vented by continuously drinking until she got drunk. When Kijin apologized and denied that the marriage plan was true, Ah Young didn't want to hear it and tried to distance herself. She no longer wanted to deal with Kijin. The director's attention towards Ah Young made his colleagues suspect that there must be a special relationship between the two. Even though she was angry and kept refusing to be escorted home, Kijin still followed Ah Young and ensured she got home safely. From a distance, it turned out that Sang-yi witnessed his brother walking with Ah Young. He even called the girl my Ah Young. He was truly jealous and couldn't contain his emotions, because the girl he loved apparently chose his brother over him, even though, in reality, Sang-yi had already been able to let Yeonju marry Kijin, because now his heart had opened up to Ah Young. However, his brother was distancing himself from Yeonju and getting closer to Ah Young. When he gifted a doll to Ah Young, for a moment, Sang-yi realized that all this time, he was only considered a confidant in Telesepi. To vent his growing anger, he threw all his painting supplies in the gallery. On the other hand, someone was having a farewell party with 3 friends before leaving the country. They also agreed to buy friendship rings. Today, Ah Young couldn't join because she was working, so someone bought a ring for her. Apparently, someone also wanted to make peace with Ah Young before leaving. However, when visiting the girl's house, someone became emotional again because she saw her husband with Ah Young both lying down in the yard. Her husband tried to clarify this misunderstanding, but she remained furious. The next day, Young was very busy preparing the welcome event for the Western guests at the International Festival. Although initially nervous, she eventually managed to work optimally, earning praise from the higher-ups for her performance. Unexpectedly, at Taejin's resort, a distant investor turned out to be a guest from Shanghai. As they were about to cross paths, a flustered Young tried to avoid and hide. She quickly called Taejin to help her handle the situation, as she was worried the investor might recognize her.
어떻게 진정을 해요? 그 사람 우리가 부부인 줄 아는데.
It was quite surprising for Taejin when investor John suddenly visited Korea without informing him. In the end, he deployed the staff to search for the investor throughout the resort area. This was also to prevent him from meeting Young. However, the effort was in vain after investor John ran into Young's superiors, including the minister, and it turned out they were quite familiar with each other. He also greeted Young and introduced her in front of the minister, stating that Young is the wife of director Hyun Kijin. Young couldn't deny it to investor John because she was also afraid of being fired. She eventually told a lie in front of her superiors that she was indeed married to Kijin. A little while later, Kijin suddenly came in and intervened, denying that they were ever married. Investor John had already come to believe that Young and Kijin were a married couple. He even managed to convince Young's superiors, allowing this misunderstanding to pass without issue. Kijin's behavior in front of the investors and Young's superiors was not without reason. He truly wanted to end all the pretense and was determined to own this love from the beginning. After tearing up the ridiculous contract agreement, he pleaded with Young to open her heart to him. However, she ignored him, considering all of Kijin's actions to be a joke.
그러니까 사람 들었다 놨다 하지 말라고요. 알겠어요?
Meanwhile, a major argument had just occurred between Soren and her husband following the misunderstanding at Young's house the other day. The woman decided to run away from home, prompting a panicked Jibum to report it to the police. Her 3 friends were also worried, knowing that Soren had unstable emotions and was quite reckless.
이제 떠나요. 모두 다 안녕. 무슨 유언처럼.
No one knew where she was, but only Young was informed that she was currently calming herself on Jeju Island. At the same time, the tourism office staff held an important meeting to enhance the tourism potential of Jeju Island. Young, who kept thinking about Soren, immediately volunteered to go there for a business trip and to meet her friend. When Kijin visited and asked her out on a date, Young firmly refused because she had to get ready for her assignment. Kijin insisted on wanting to accompany her, but once again Young refused.
배 타고 가야 되거든요.
In order to accompany Young to Jeju Island, Kijin even looked for excuses to make it seem like a business trip. He even had to take time off work and ask the manager to lead an important meeting discussing embezzlement and shareholders. He insisted that Young take a private helicopter, but she still refused and preferred to take a ferry. In the end, Kijin was forced to comply, even though he got seasick and was quite troublesome on the boat. Upon arriving in Jeju Island, the director was immediately greeted by a luxurious car with full amenities and forbade Young from staying in a motel. It turned out, he had rented 2 VIP rooms at the most luxurious resort on the island. It turned out that Young's job this time was quite complicated and exhausting, as she had to deal with guests from various countries. However, thanks to Kijin's experience in business, she was able to easily mingle with the foreign tourist guests. Before departing for Jeju, Kijin had already gathered the names of important people Young would meet, and he fully assisted Young to ensure smooth communication. Kijin also accompanied her to play golf, have light conversations, and even drink tea together. During the lunch break, Young tried to contact Soren to confirm her whereabouts. The woman pretended to cry and be sad, intending to end her life to make Young feel guilty. In reality, Soren was relaxing by the pool and getting ready to have fun, but unexpectedly, Young saw Soren swimming, smiling broadly. Feeling played, Young lashed out at her, but Soren responded calmly because she had succeeded in making Young worried enough to follow her. Young asserted that she no longer had any feelings for Sebum and loved someone else. In the middle of the argument, Kijin suddenly came and acted very affectionately towards Young, which greatly surprised Soren. Now she truly believed that the director was deeply in love with Ah Young, and it was impossible for the girl to have feelings for her husband. Kijin's purpose in accompanying Ah Young to Jeju was not merely for a vacation. In fact, he wanted to realize his grand plan to make Ah Young the most important part of his life. He also gifted her a luxurious dress, along with jewelry for Ah Young to wear, at tonight's romantic dinner. He booked the entire restaurant, just to be able to express his true feelings. On a floor strewn with flowers, Kijin and Ah Young resemble a couple about to walk down the aisle. She was less speechless by Kijin's sweet treatment towards her. Only tears of emotion could express how happy they both were this evening. Kijin gently wiped the tears from Ah Young's cheeks, promising he would never let her cry. He also announced to the world that this time, his romantic relationship was not an act or a pretense like before. Kijin prepared to land a kiss on Ah Young's forehead and lips. It turned out that from a distance, Yeonju saw the romance and could only cry, unable to accept the reality. Yeonju couldn't bring herself to appear. She just watched them from afar and walked back to her hotel room in tears. The next day, she was still faced with a painful sight. When the man she loved so sweetly opened the car door for Ah Young and prepared to return to Seoul. Meanwhile, someone had opened her heart to forgive her husband as the lawyer was picking her up at the hotel. He pleaded sincerely with his wife. While someone was far from him, Jaibu truly felt a loss of zest for life, even intending to leap into sincerity to atone for his guilt. After both realized how precious their partner was, they agreed to start their love anew, from the beginning. Now, they are even more affectionate than newlyweds. The love story between Kijin and Ah Young has entered a new chapter. Without hesitation, the director invited Ah Young to meet Kyonku's older brother, a barista at a coffee shop and also a painter, a friend of Songi. Unashamedly, in front of everyone, Kijin admitted that the two of them have been dating. As the dishes were served, the two of them fed each other and smiled meaningfully. Sonny's heart felt torn seeing the girl he loved so happy with someone else. Nevertheless, Sonny tried to remain strong. He could only hide behind the wall. Once again, Yonka witnessed that painful happiness. Even though it was bitter to express, Sonny apparently chased after Anne, tried to comfort her. He asked Yonka to let go because his brother is no longer the same man from 3 years ago. He was able to comfort Yonku, but he couldn't calm his own emotional turmoil. In the art gallery room, he threw all his paintings, including the portrait of Akon that he had always gazed at. The next day, Yonku came to see Akon and expressed that she could never let go of her first love, to be with anyone else. Tears welled up in the corners of her eyes. Akon felt guilty for having taken Yonku's first love. He now felt that he was no different from Soren, who had taken Kabong from him. Meanwhile, to spend her day off, Chicken visited Akon's house to meet her future father-in-law. However, when she got there, instead of being warmly welcomed, Akam's father was very upset with her because his daughter often cried because of Kikin. It didn't stop there. Akam's father even challenged Kikin to drink as much Mira as possible until both of them passed out unconscious. A bowl of hot soup was served by the father to cure the hangover in the morning. Actually, he wanted to test how tough the man, who had made his daughter fall in love, was. His love affair with Akang might be going beautifully as hoped. However, on the other hand, Kikin, who was love-struck, often neglected his work, for the sake of Akang alone. One instance was when he avoided the manager who was delivering report documents that needed his review. At that time, Kikin chose to attend a traditional music performance instead. Kikin even bought all the tickets so that Akang would feel proud because his efforts were not in vain. They spent the beautiful night together under the cherry blossom tree, its branches adorned with twinkling lights. Due to the severe shock of being rejected by Kikin, Ionju had to be rushed to the hospital after being found unconscious at her home. The previous night, Kikin didn't want Ionju to have any more hopes for him and revealed that he is not the same person he used to be. He didn't want to be a coward who is greedy between two women, and Kikin begged Ionju to let him go. Moving on to investor John, who began to show signs of distancing himself from Hotel World, because he was disappointed with Kikin's statement in front of the entire board of directors. After the investor signed the investment contract, Kikin revealed that all this time, He pretended to be married to a Jung and used her to gain the sympathy of investor John. The cooperation contract between them is now at risk of failing, because reportedly, investor John chose to align with the Grid Hotel, a major competitor of his company. The consequences of this will be as severe as this. Kikin tried to convince his aunt and promised to resolve the issue as soon as possible. However, his aunt was already furious and considered that Kikin had lost his sense of logic, and he couldn't distinguish between personal matters and his romantic affairs.
주총 때 너한테 경영권 넘어가는 절대로 없을 거다.
The only person considered capable of solving this problem is Mr. Pak, who is none other than Yeonju's father. The partnership is deemed quite influential and has a close relationship with investor Jong, and pleaded with Kijun to establish a closer relationship with Mr. Pak's family so Aunt could save her business. However, Kijun firmly refused because Yeonju is now erased from his heart. Even though Aunt kept insisting, Kijun still agreed to come. He attended a dinner with Mr. Pak's family. He actually preferred to accompany the aunt, who was upset after receiving a harsh reprimand from her boss because her fake marriage was exposed. The boss also mentioned that Sika Jaelan, the wife of director Kijun, is actually the daughter of Mr. Pak, who is none other than Yeonju. Not wanting his beloved to be sad, Kijun emphasized that he would rather choose the aunt, regardless of the consequences he might face. The two supported each other and embraced beneath a cherry blossom tree. Even in a state of agitation, he remained happy accompanying the aunt to play at the amusement park while enjoying ice cream and various street foods. He no longer cared if the world would criticize him tomorrow and repeatedly ignored Yeonju's calls because Kijun no longer wanted to deal with him. Not much different from the aunt, someone else was feeling happiness tonight as she and her husband were enjoying a romantic dinner and exchanging gifts. At a table not far from them, someone saw Yeonju's family and Taejun's aunt waiting for someone who turned out to be having fun with the aunt. Kijun's absence disappointed Yeonju's family as they came not only to discuss the matchmaking, but also for a very important business matter. The closeness between investor Jaein and Mr. Park put Taejun in a tight spot, as his company was at risk of losing the investment after the investor became furious with him. He was considered to be toying with the marriage bond by betraying Mr. Park's daughter, who was supposed to marry him. Although initially, investor Jaein was truly fed up with Kijun's attitude, over time, he eventually agreed to reconsider the partnership contract with World Hotel. Moreover, at that time, the president was convinced that his business was not a sham, and he promised to do his utmost and never disappoint. Taejun returned home with a triumphant smile. He then prepared himself to win the investment from Shanghai. Not wanting the issue to drag on, Taejun apologized to Yeonju's father for his absence the previous night. Taejun also admitted to ending his relationship with Mr. Park's daughter, as he didn't want her to get too involved in his business affairs. Taejun's attitude was considered too reckless and not focused on the company's future. Meanwhile, at her office, Young wanted her boyfriend to meet her without disrupting her work activities. This time, she was once again appointed as the person in charge of the international events that will take place at Hotel World. Young argued that if the report from the hotel staff did not align with her instructions, it was so that the director himself would come to the office and explain everything. News about the director's fake marriage to attract investor sympathy has now become the hottest trending topic across Korea. Reporters have been busy gathering at Hotel World to get a statement from the director, but he is not in Korea. Unable to withstand the media spotlight, the aunt was furious with her very audacious nephew. She condemned him and considered him a coward for suddenly flying to Shanghai after causing a commotion. Now, the aunt has touted Young and is asking her to end her relationship with Taejun. She considers Young the mastermind who has greatly influenced Taejun's mindset, leading him to act impulsively and harm the company. It's not just the aunt who is worried about the turmoil happening with Taejun. The uncle also came to warn Young not to go too far, as she might end up destroying Taejun. He subtly expressed that Young is not suitable to be with a director like Taejun, as she will only cause many problems and won't be able to help, let alone take responsibility for the issues that arise. Young could only cry all night. What is happening now is truly beyond her expectations. Since she has become entangled in complications with Taejun, Young must take responsibility to resolve them. She pleaded with Jibum to be her defense attorney the next day. At Hotel World, manager Park and secretary Sun were so confused when faced with numerous questions from reporters. While their boss was still unreachable, the hot news quickly spread and became the main topic of discussion at the tourism office. Feeling guilty because she was the main source of the rumor, Young wrote a resignation letter. She hurriedly made her way to World Hotel, which was now swarmed by reporters. Not wanting Kijun to be blamed in front of the reporters, Young admitted that she was the most at fault in the fake marriage and that she was the one who had forced Kijun to comply with all her whims.
이건 뭐 여자 치마폭에 숨어서 뭐 하자는 짓이야?
내가 안 나서면 한 살.
Upon returning from China, Kijun couldn't hold back tears when he heard the widespread news that Ajuan had confessed to everything. He never expected that Ajuan would be willing to sacrifice and destroy himself just for Kijun. Even though his aunt kept forbidding him from speaking out, Kijun still couldn't let Ajuan remain sad. For the sake of stabilizing the company, the manager kept warning him to remain silent. For the sake of his reputation and the company's shares. Because if Kijun also took part in silencing the journalists, it would eventually backfire on him. The media was relentless in reporting that Ajuan was a seductress who had taken the director away from his former lover. In her office, she became the talk of the town. Even her boss spoke up. Even the Minister of Tourism was preparing to call her in for a disciplinary hearing. Carrying a box of items from her office, Ajuan was ready to quit her job. As usual, when sadness struck, Songi was always by her side to comfort her. She was so disappointed in her brother who always made the woman who loved him sad. By singing a silly song, she managed to make Ajuan laugh at the playground. To clear Ajuan's name, Kijun was willing to take the most extreme path, now shouting in a crowded area so the whole world would know that he truly loved Ajuan. His craziness successfully became a trending topic and garnered praise from various media. Yet again, the narrative shifted back to Ajuan, who was considered lucky as a Cinderella, having managed to steal the heart of the president-director. The public was amazed by the sacrifices made for their love. Now, they have become the most sought-after couple by news seekers. All eyes are now on the president and the civil servant, to the point where there's no safe place to hide. In a shopping mall, someone wanted to cheer up Ajuan by taking a walk to the beauty salon. As a friend, they were also happy to see how lucky Ajuan was to be loved by a man like Kijun. After going through various rough patches, their friend was finally able to find happiness. They were initially worried when Ajuan was reported as a seductress, but now they can breathe a sigh of relief seeing their friend smile. The bold moves made by Kijun have significantly affected his reputation as a president. The stock reports of his office have continued to plummet drastically after Kijun got involved in many scandals. Not only that, he is even threatened with being removed from his position because he is considered unprofessional in his work. For the umpteenth time, Pippi pleaded with Kijun to focus on the company and leave Ajuan, but Kijun still refused. During the board of directors meeting, a vote was held to decide whether to keep him as president or to remove him. The failure of the investors is the main reason the board is disappointed with Kijun's attitude. However, unexpectedly, the board meeting was suddenly cancelled after the manager announced that the investors were willing to sign an investment agreement for the Worth Hotel branch in Shanghai. Finally, Kijun could smile with relief because he remained in his position as president. The ratification of the cooperation between the South Korean World Group Company and the Chinese Gold Company has been agreed upon and broadcast live through a press conference. With enthusiasm, the investors invited Kijun to attend the cooperation celebration party tonight along with Ajuan. At a restaurant by the beach, Kijun invited the manager to have a drink together to celebrate the success of the investment. As both a friend and a colleague, the manager admitted that he is very proud to work with Kijun, who is not only a perfectionist in his work, but also completely devoted in loving a woman. Meanwhile, due to the government's actions against him, Ajuan has to undergo a hearing by the disciplinary commission. He is considered to have committed nepotism by choosing Kijun's Gold Resort as the location for holding the international festival. This act is deemed a violation because Ajuan is a state employee who is not allowed to seek personal gain in his work affairs. Not only that, The plan for the international festival to be held at Hotel World is also at risk of being cancelled. Despite being so sad, Ajuin tries to keep smiling in front of Taejin, especially when his lover visits his house and wants to meet Ajuin's father. In front of his future father-in-law, Taejin kneels and apologizes for the public uproar involving Ajuin. Taejin returns home in a weakened state after a drinking contest with his future father-in-law. He keeps rambling and shouting all the way that he loves Ajuin very much. The celebration party for the cooperation between the two companies has begun. As expected by investor John, Kicken arrived with Ah-young, who looks so beautiful in her black dress. Ayeon Jupin's parents also attended, adding to the festivities as one of the most important colleagues in the company. Not liking Ah-young's presence, Aunt continuously showed a sullen face without greeting the girl at all. She scolded her nephew for being considered impolite by bringing another woman, while Ayeon Jupin's parents are here. A reporter named Wang was interested in interviewing Ah-young. He bombarded her with various pointed questions, suggesting that Ah-young was so lucky to be able to take Ayeon Jupin's position. Seeing his girlfriend feeling uncomfortable, Kicken immediately intervened and urged the reporter not to bother her anymore. At the same time, Ah-young was shocked after hearing the news from the disciplinary commission that she was indeed fired and would be blacklisted from government agencies. Unable to hold back her feelings, Ah-young ran out of the room and, without realizing it, her foot tripped on the carpet, causing her to bump into the statue of S. This caused a commotion because the statue fell and landed on her. At that moment, her tears kept flowing. To avoid embarrassment, Ah-young kept apologizing to everyone present for causing the chaos.
어떻게 된 거야?
Upon arriving home, Ah-young lamented her ruined career. Fortunately, many of her friends defended her. They collectively submitted a petition to review the dismissal documents against Ah-young. Eventually, after a few weeks, Ah-young attended a second hearing, and her dismissal was revoked because Ah-young was not proven to have committed nepotism. Meanwhile, Ayeon Siam decided to return to France and intended to forget her romantic story with Kijin. Only Sangya accompanied her to the airport, and it seemed their relationship would be more than just friends, even though they were aware of the distance and time that would separate them. The event welcoming Ah-young back to the office was celebrated joyfully, and Kijin even treated Ah-young's friends to ice cream. That evening, they celebrated together with Ah-young's father and her boyfriend, who was already quite close to the family. It was quite difficult to get approval from Kijin's aunt, because that woman apparently set many conditions for becoming the director's wife. Ah-young had to master 6 languages and be ready to accompany her husband on every business trip. The aunt asked Ah-young to quit her job as a civil servant because she needed to practice golf and build relationships with socialites. This seemed to put a lot of pressure on Ah-young. In fact, Kijin didn't demand much from Ah-young. In a sweet surprise, Kijin proposed to Ah-young. However, the line said that she was not Kijin's ideal woman.
당신 거야. 이런 조각품에도 이름 새겨 넣을 거야.
Ah-young felt she was worthy of marrying a man like Kijin, even though she truly loved him. She asked for time so that Kijin would be patient because Ah-young would try to improve herself. The next day, Ah-young met with her superior and requested to be transferred to the Jeju branch. At the same time, to develop an art gallery that was quite neglected. 1 month later, in the end, Kijin decided to follow his lover, under the pretext of checking the progress of his resort. Seeing Kijin's arrival made Ah-young very happy.
왜?
Joy also filled the heart of Soren, who turned out to be 3 weeks pregnant. Unfortunately, when she wanted to share the news with Jibum, he had just left the house due to a previous argument. Soren was frustrated searching for her husband and shared her worries with Ah-young. Unexpectedly, Jibum was staying at Kijin's resort. Without hesitation, the next day Soren went to meet her husband, who was having fun with some girls. Although a bit disappointed, Soren and Jibum now promised to act more maturely, for the sake of raising their child. Kijin deliberately arranged a date together as a strategy to get closer to Ah-young. That night, Kijin boldly insisted that Ah-young allow him to stay over. Kijin wanted to spend time with Ah-young, while continuously holding her hand and admiring her beauty. Before returning to Seoul, Kijin gave Ah-young a diamond necklace, hoping that by the end of the month, Ah-young would give an answer to this proposal from the other day. He wanted Ah-young to return to Seoul wearing the necklace he gave her. Once again, Ah-young couldn't attend this important meeting because, at the same time, an item in the museum went missing, and Ah-young had to find it immediately. This made Ki-jin and his aunt very disappointed. Ki-jin even thought that Ah-young was refusing to marry him because she returned the jewelry box. However, it turned out that the box contained a letter, as a sign that Ah-young was ready to marry Ki-jin. On that day, Ki-jin cancelled all his meeting schedules. He immediately followed his beloved to Jeju Island. The two of them embraced on the beautiful beach and promised never to leave each other. In the end, a relationship that began with lies and deceit transformed into the truth of eternal love